good evening, everybody. Welcome to the CCU Library webinar for the CAGS program, especially leading you towards the library resources that you're going to need, mostly electronic resources. And it all starts at the ccu.edu/library website. The first two parts of our Colorado Christian University mission statement are Christ-centered and higher education. So in terms of what you think about with a library, these are going to be the two primary things that we're starting with. It may not be like a public library that you maybe went to as a child. We've got storybooks and things read to you, fiction books and all the rest. Yes, we have some of those things, but we are mostly focused on Christ-centered materials that you may not be able to get other places, as well as higher education sources. So you're getting to those peer-reviewed scholarly types of articles and books. So that's where we're starting. And we do have a team of librarians as well that are here to assist you. We have a lot of services along with all the resources that are available. We have a new director also coming on soon. As you can see, there are many, many resources out there. The ebooks are quite extensive. The physical materials are a little bit more difficult for you to reach when you are scattered across the country. But these databases that are here have millions and millions of articles that you can access right from where you are, no matter where you're traveling. And then that final side over here, the student appointments, that is where you can chat with a librarian or book a librarian, and I will explain that in more detail in a little bit. So, as you know, your library, the location of your library is this web address, ccu.edu/library. That's going to be your jumping off point to get to all your materials. And it looks like this. This is a look of what it does look like most of the time. We do change it a little bit here and there, but I will be explaining this tonight, as well as the how to distinguish between print and electronic book resources. And there's a whole bunch of help menus, which I will highlight as well, including how to troubleshoot your technology if that's necessary. And then the big part of tonight is how do you get to your subject area guides and article resources and some of those other tools, such as a citation maker. So that's what our plan is for tonight. Plan on doing this in about half an hour or so, 25 minutes. So as we said, it all starts here at ccu.edu/library. And this is what it looks like. I'm going to go to a live now demonstration and show you what this looks like. I will also be leaving you with a Google Doc that has a lot of the links of where we're going today and give you a quick overview of what things look like. As you can see, the top left here, when you hover over it, it takes you back to this home page, no matter where you end up. You have a lot of helpful drop-down menus here, as well as some quick links that remain on the future pages that you end up going to. So all of these can be quite helpful. One to highlight is the how-to, including tutorials and frequently asked questions, as well as research help, and so on. When I click on this one, the frequently asked questions, I get a list of a variety of things here, including help with research. And I end up getting a long list of questions with hyperlinked answers behind them, like what is scholarly, what is peer review, and what are permalinks. But then also we have a technology and troubleshooting guide with all those same questions as well. What happens when your login's not working? Which login should I do? Most of the time, thankfully, your login will be your normal Brightspace login, your normal CCU login. There are a few instances where there is a different type of login necessary, but you shouldn't come to those very often. So those are just a quick look at some of these helps. And let's go back to our homepage real quick. And as I highlight a few things. Now, you'll get very different results when you click on here and search versus when you click on here and search. And there are times when this might be appropriate type of a search. There are times when this will be more appropriate. And there are times others, this article's yellow area has great power at times, but there's times where it's not as helpful. And there are times when you want to go to the other yellow instead, this compass, and it's a subject guides button. And this will be very helpful for all of your programs. As you can see here, The librarians have put a little bit of work in behind the scenes here, that you have directed subject area helps for both articles, books, websites, video resources, and so on in all of these different subject areas. So a few of you are in counseling psychology, and so I might choose either the psychology guide over here or the counseling guide here. Each one has a drop-down menu of 6, and they look actually somewhat similar, but you get slightly different between counseling and psychology. Now, for biblical studies, all of us will have at times a need to get to theological resources. And so you have a drop down here of 7 different ways you can go. If we choose the major one here, we'll see an example of what a subject guide looks like. You get the title of it here, starts with articles, which is the default. And then there's books, and somewhere down the way, there's websites and video resources. The biblical studies one has quite a few biblical source helps, theology helps. You can see that we are highlighting here the articles that go to databases. There's a theological religion one, as well as a bunch of others. And then if I go to, say, books, I get a list of some helps in different categories of theology and Bible. But as I scroll down, I also get links for searches for each book of the Bible. And this will be really helpful subject searches within those biblical texts. And then some of you will do some preliminary classes, and you'll need to look at commentaries, or you'll need to look at Old Testament or New Testament background, and so on. So this is just a look at one of the subject guides. As I go to another, let's take a look at, say, psychology. And a couple clicks gets me to the psychology guide. You can see it looks very similar, except now we're getting databases that are directed towards psychology, including like an education one. When I hover over it, I can see that this one's education. This is video online. This one is an EBSCO product. Here's a ProQuest product. So lots of different ways to jump through these resources. Also, say I come over here to the books portion, I get a listing of a few different books. You have access to the DSM manual online here, including a bunch of different versions. And as a student, you'll need to log in here, but you have access to all of these. So let's go back now and just do a quick look at what these article searches look like. Each database will look slightly different, but let's take a look at this primary one, Psych Articles, as an example. Now, EBSCO has recently changed. We changed it at the end of May. So if this doesn't look familiar to you, that's the reason why. Although where it takes you should be similar to what it was in previous years. So you can see right now we're searching just one database. If I click on this portion right here, I can add in others. So if you're doing something for psychology, you might want to choose these 3. One starts with the letter P, it's in alphabetical order. Others start with the APA. So now I can maximize the amount of results that I get by adding in more databases. I could start here with a keyword search on something, and I will get a larger amount. I'll get even more if I use some of these suggested terms. And with these ors in between them, this or this or this, that will extend the search out quite a bit. So just putting the word trauma as a keyword and doing that search, I will get a fair amount of results. First thing I want to look at is how many results do I actually have here. Let's see if this is actually going to work here. There we go. So we should get quite a few, 232,000. If I was to do that same search, but add in the other parts, that number is going to go up quite a bit. Oh, and maybe not that much. It looks like it stayed the same. It's because that word trauma is in each of these places. But usually what I want to do is narrow that number down. And so I have a number of ways to do that. I have a bunch of buttons here that can help me. But I also can, when I'm in the searching area, I can go to the all fields and force these to be subject terms of the articles. So when I do that, that 232 goes down quite a bit. And I can see now that that word is part of each of the subject areas here. I could search any one of these just by clicking the hyperlink. Now I know I want to bring this down. This is not like a Google search where the top things that you want are at the top. They can be anywhere. So it's better at this point to either add in more terms For instance, I could do something like this and make that also a subject, and my 68,000 is going to go down quite a bit. And I also notice that I have access options here. Sometimes you do have access to the full text, but sometimes you won't. This one's an interlibrary loan only. And so it may be that with this many possibilities, it's probably a good idea at this moment to say just full text, please. And that 13,000 is going to go down, cut in half or more. And there's times where you also are required to have peer-reviewed scholarly articles. And so we are also going to, most of these are already. And there's also times where you're going to need to limit the date range. And so now we're getting to the most current articles here. So these filters are quite helpful. Also, when you have done searches like this, you have tools right here. It's kind of hard to see it, but when you hover over, you can see that there are tools. And we get four things here. One of them is a citation. You can add to projects and you can have folders and so on over here. You can get a link to this exact catalog record with the share button, and you can download this right straight to your computer. I'm going to start here with the citation button. And what I get here is an alphabetical list when I click on this part of different citation styles. I'm going to choose APA for the subject area, and I get a citation that is here. Do check these because I've noticed that at times they put in capital letters here. Sometimes they mix the name up a little bit, but for the most part, I should be able to copy this and paste it into another document for my notes, for my bibliography, or whatever it is. You also, for those of you that use them, you can export a citation using some of these tools, and that's just another option. You also, within EBSCOhost, you have the ability to log into My EBSCO, signing in. You'll probably need to enter your email address the first time you do it. I'm just going to use my Google one. You can just do this as well with yours and quickly click through and get yourself opened up into a My EBSCO account. And then you can choose, make a folder for whatever class you might be in and whatever project you want to have. So that way, whatever searches that I've done, I can get into those resources quickly. Now, one thing I just noticed is that I'm now in a thing called EBSCO Discovery Service. When you do not see that database list here, it means that I'm in that yellow searching spot and searching all the different places, not just in the psychology resources. So if I want to get back to just psychology, I may have to come back here. I can do that through the guides. I can, once I know the names of them, I can come through databases A to Z, do a general academic search here, or I can go to EBSCO and open up the whole EBSCO database package and choose any one that I want. It's a long list here. Actually, it opened up all of them. Here we go. So now I have all 58 showing here. And actually a search of trauma with all of these databases is going to be quite interesting and much more extensive. So here we have 3 million results. And I'm getting things in other languages. It's always possible for you to take those away using your filters. You have a bunch of filters over here, and one of them happens to be language. And I can choose just a particular language if I wish. And I have to hit the apply button, and then everything will be in English. Okay, so that's just a quick look at some of these databases. You are able to very quickly to just unclick and go to any one of these you wish. Say you're in business or in biblical studies. It's this Atla religion. I could easily jump over into another area and get a different perspective on a particular topic. In the religion database, we're getting 11,000 on trauma. And I could easily add in other types of ideas with this. I could even say something like Bible or Christianity and see what we get. I can make that even a subject term. And now I'm going to get results that are more theological based as opposed to the psychology side. So those are just some of the power that you have here. When I am here, I can also search for authors, a title, exact title, or even search within a particular journal or a source. So lots of other ways to do your searching. One thing I haven't shown you yet is you have a subject thesaurus here that can be quite helpful. And you can search within that subject thesaurus. Since I'm in Atla Religion, I have two choices. I can do a scripture search or a religion theology search. So that's what that looks like in this place. Let's put something in like scripture search on Matthew. And it puts me right into the area for Matthew. If I want to search the entire book, I click here and add to search. If I want to search just a particular chapter, I can come here and just do chapter 1, say, add this to my search. And then I'd actually have to do the search on Matthew chapter 1, 302 articles that are dealing with something in the scripture range of Matthew chapter 1. And I can add other things, such as women in the Bible or whatever, to focus that search even more. So that's just a quick look at one of the databases from one of the packages. I'm going to come back here to our guides real fast. And looking at these, let's take a look at a different one. So I'll go ahead and go through psychology once again. Let's look at ProQuest psychology. And this one's just going to look slightly different. Most all of these sources have helps like full text and peer reviewed. They all have advanced features so that I can choose different ways of searching. And you should be able to gain a for your notes, a permanent link for your searches, as well as permanent links for the exact articles. And most of these you'll be able to download the full text of those articles. So we have a number of different databases that you have to choose from, just like we have a number of different subject area guides, and each one's going to look slightly different. You have access to magazines and newspapers. You have access to these, career vocation. Even the business guide is quite extensive. There's a lot hidden behind your company and industry information, things in computer science. Over here, we have social issues, law, criminal justice. So there is a lot of other subject areas that are hidden behind these if you're not finding your particular subject area. So that's a quick look at the guides here. It is also necessary at times to do book searches. And so I'm going to come now back to our Books Plus primary page and say I put in something here like Book of Matthew. I'll get very different results if I do keywords versus title, author, subject. Let's just try this as a keyword for the moment. And so the first thing that I'm looking for is what are my results? And some are going to be off topic here and some might be on. These are print books. These are ebooks. If I don't want these to confuse me, I can just click on this ebook spot. There are different types of ebooks too. This is an Overdrive. It's a checkout type of system. Whereas as I scroll down, I'm getting a lot of things that are Overdrive checkouts. This one here is a print book. And here, when I get the access online, that's where I'm getting something that you do not need to check out. It's checked out to you while you have it open, and then it goes back to anybody else as soon as you stop using it for like 10 minutes or so. So let's take a look at what one of these looks like. When I click here on Access Online, I come to a record here. I can cite the book in multiple styles. Copy and paste. And I'm also able to see how many we own. Sometimes we have 1, 5 copies, and sometimes this is unlimited. Some publishers allow you to download part of it in case you're worried about not being able to access it next time. But most of the time, you should be able to come in here and read online. And you can search within the book. You also have tools. You can get printing. You also get a link to an exact page, but you have page numbers here as well. And you have your citation link right here. So all of these are possible for you to get to. When I do a search, this for particular one, this is ProQuest eBooks. It turns a little bit purple here where that term shows up. I can go straight to that portion. It should be highlighted. And then I also have that page number, and I have a link to this page for your notes. I can get right to the exact portion of the book that I want to whenever I want to. So that's a quick look at an ebook. And by the way, while we are doing searches like this, let's try this as we could make it a subject, we'll get less results. I may also want to say, let's do this in the realm of psychology and make that my subject. And you can see that we have 23,000 ebooks. And it's at this moment that I would go to advanced search and look for other terms to go along with that to focus my search and make sure that everything that I am searching is going to be in the subject area that I want. Out of those 23,000, 1,300 ebooks are on that subject, that word. And I can narrow further. By the way, you also have other limiters here, including something that will help you limit to the time frame that you wish. And here we go. Okay, so that's just a quick look at the books portion. A very quick look. This whole evening is meant to be a quick overview of library services. If you do have a question, please feel free to unmute yourself or put that into the chat. I see we have a couple here. Okay, people are telling me what you are involved in, and someone is asking the question, logging into EBSCO, CCU email and CCU password like we use for Brightspace. Most of the time that is true. You will be using your normal login. I had logged in earlier, so every time I'm clicking on these buttons, they are showing up as jumping straight into the book. The first time you go into them in a certain session, you will have to put in your normal password login. And often that is your number, your 7-digit number, plus whatever password that you use for everything. So that's how this normally looks. Most of this part where we are, you can get here without logging in. It's when you start going to a resource that's behind a password protected area. That's happening for articles, that's happening for these ebooks. That's when you'll have to do your login. Like I said before, it is possible for you to come here and figure out more about how to figure out the technology of things. And there are some things here on how do I log in? My login isn't working. What if I'm doing a special thing like Libby, which is part of Overdrive? If you try to get to those Overdrive books, you have a different password that you have to create separately. So this is the only place that you would probably have that happening. But we are also, the librarians are here to be either a quick chat away or a way to book a longer appointment. We call it a book at a librarian, and usually it lasts from about 15 minutes to 20 minutes, maybe 25, depending on your topic. And we have a Zoom call. You get to see our screen, and we actually do a little bit of pre-research as you tell us more about your topic and which class you're in and which course you're in. We are happy to do a little pre-research, and we create an email or a Google Doc that we then send with you at the end of your time. And it'll be exactly on your topic and sending you to the best resources and links for your exact topic. So that's what that book a librarian, and this usually says chat when we are in the office. We do have an hours button here as well. In the summertime, we're here 8 to 4, most days, Monday through Friday. But our regular semester will be a little bit different. We have a little bit more extended hours. So let's quick look at that. As an example of the follow-up document, I'm going to go to what I'm going to give you tonight. It is this follow-up document about tonight. I have where we started. I will be recording this. I am recording it, and I will be putting the link here very soon after it all gets ready. Here's a little bit of some examples of what we did tonight, really highlighting that guides button. I have some tutorials for ProQuest, JSTOR, EBSCO, and here are a few other databases that I didn't highlight tonight, but some of these can be used after graduation, like CloudSource, ERIC, the education one, or PubMed. Here's a quick example of an atlas search using the scripture range Matthew 1 and Women in the Bible. Here's a quick link for Academic Search Complete and just a general reminder with this hyperlink. Quick reminder of some of the books you have available to you. And here's a quick survey link at the end of this. So the key may be that you have the ability to re-watch parts of what's happened tonight as you wish. So I'm going to share this with you. I'm going to say thank you for coming tonight, but I also am here to answer questions as well. And the way to get to this document is tinyurl.com/CAGS library. And it doesn't matter if this is lowercase or uppercase, the CAGS. I'm copying it right now and putting it into our chat. And this one is not going to hyperlink, but I'm going to grab it from here to get a hyperlink for you. Copy that link. And we're going to put the link or also in the chat that does go straight into this document. As you start to open that, I'll start to see some icons right here that shows that you have received the document. And you have a number of options with this. When we close our meeting tonight, you can always come to this file and make a copy of it so that you always have it in your own Google Drive. Some people may want to download it into another format like a PDF, and then you have that saved on your computer as you wish. So you wouldn't lose this document. Okay, so that is the quick look over everything. I am going to stop the recording now and allow you to ask any questions that you wish. So please think through that for a moment while I stop this recording.